Spike couldn't wake up, so Flitter grabbed Spike and flew as fast as she could back to Ponyville. Even if the trip took her at least 2 hours or 3. But when she arrived, Spike was still fainted. She took him to her castle. Twilight was surprised to see Flitter, but then she saw Spike in her hooves. And she asked what happened, and she explained everything what happened. And then Twilight said, "Well, let's take him to the couch and so that he could rest." She took him into the castle in the library and put him down on the couch. And Twilight explained to Flitter that Spike used much of his own energy to make that fire, because she explained the reason why he could blow up so much fire then and imagine it is a full grown, because his anger was like building up so much energy in his body, and all the fire inside him was getting tenfold or 20 twice the much stronger than normal and his size. So much fire would drain a dragon's energy and make them fainted. He will wake up within a few hours, at least some sleep. And Flitter was much relieved that Spike would be okay. She said this to Twilight, and the thing to tell Spike that she is happy that he is safe and that he managed to save her. And Twilight said, "Yeah, I will tell him." And then Flitter kissed Spike on the cheek and left the castle. But unfortunately, Spike did wake up in the next few hours. In fact, it took him at least an entire night to make him wake up again. When Spike woke up in his own bed, what happened? Then he saw his room, and then he remembered what happened. But how did I get home? And he woke up, left the room, and started to look for Twilight. And surprised enough, she was actually in the cutie map room with Starlight Glimmer and Galaxy Star. They were talking about some mission together, of friendship mission. "Oh, good morning, Spike," said Twilight. "Twilight, what just happened? And how did I get back here? And where's Flitter? And is she okay?" Spike didn't remember much about what happened after he saved Flitter from the dragons. At some point there afterwards, he didn't remember exactly what happened. And Twilight had to explain every detail of what Flitter told to her, then he explained it to Spike. And Spike just listened and said, "So I was kind of asleep that long?" "Yeah, you were." And Spike just looked at Twilight and said, "And how was Flitter?" "Well, she was actually saved, because you saved her from the dragons. And she was scared that something else worse had happened to you when you wouldn't wake up. But I explained to her that it was normal. Well, not that normal, but not much as it's for you." Spike couldn't say much and said, "Okay, I had to go find her." And then he ran right out the castle, right to town, up to Flitter's home, knocked on the door, but no answer. He knocked on the door again, still no answer. He looked out the window, couldn't see her. Then he looked around the town, at the market, Sugar Cube Corner, but nowhere. Then he looked at the park, and there she was, on the same bench where they ate their ice cream a few years ago. "Oh, Spike, you're okay?" I said, "Yeah, I just was so tired after that," said Spike, and she just ran up to him and hugged him so much. And they both hugged each other, and for them it felt like an eternity. For them, like the time was just stopped. I was just so scared that something else worse had happened to you, said Flitter. No, we dragons are tough ones, said Spike, and punched himself on the stomach and said, We are tough. We can't take anything. Spike, you don't have to prove to be that tough. As long as you are safe, I'm happy for that. I'm sorry, Flitter, but I couldn't control it. I couldn't stand it. Do that. Block all your ways for you. You couldn't go away. At least I want to tell Amber about this so it never happens again. Because we don't want any conflict between the dragons and the ponies. No, we don't, said Flitter. And for the next few days afterwards, Spike and Flitter stayed in Ponyville for full recovery and just to spend as much time they had. Because with the next few days after that, Spike was going to Crystal Empire for a royal meeting between the Royal Sisters and Cadence and Twilight. Even Spike would want to stay at home, but Spike was needed in Crystal Empire, so he decided to go. But before he left, he gave Flitter some hugs, kisses, and of course a rose, as a thanks and as a symbol of his true love to her. And she couldn't just stand there when the train moved away through Crystal Empire. She waved to Spike when he was waving from the window until the train disappeared in the horizon. With the those few days when Spike was in Crystal Empire, Flitter was still back home, and surprised enough, one day when she was at home, she heard a knock on the door. She thought it was Spike coming home early. Oh, Spike, you're... When she opened the door, she didn't have to finish the sentence. And who was at the door? Not rather her old boyfriend. Oh, it is you. What are you doing here? Well, I'm here to ask you to take me back. Where are your other men? Oh, we kinda broke up. We had a big fight and... Well, sorry for you to hear that, but I'm not interested in you anymore. But I'm sorry, please. I would treat you better than I used to do. I'm sorry, but no. I only had a boyfriend. You mean the baby dragon? Ha! He couldn't be more perfect stallion than me. I'm more stallion than he can be. Yeah, but he saved me from 3 dragons. He didn't save you. He probably ran away and scared like another rabbit in a hole, said him. And she smiled, rolling his eyes. Leave me alone. No is a no. I don't love you anymore. Spike is my only love now. So leave. But please, honey, take me back. I want to prove I can help you. I can support you in any ways. Please. No, said Flitter, and slammed the door right in his face and said, Oh, my nose! But he then ran away, and she never saw him or heard from him again. The last thing she heard from him that he moved to Thorningham, back to his own parents. Well, at least close to his parents. But Flitter was more than happy to hear that Spike was back home a few days after that. She explained to Spike what happened, and he just laughed at that. She actually slammed the door right in his own face. And they're like, but he didn't deserve that, said that part. No, you're right. But he wouldn't go away, said Flitter. Well, at least he's gone now, said Spike. Yeah, that's true. Do you want to go out? Yeah, sure, said Flitter, and they went out to this same opera restaurant went on the first date. And this time, they had so much great time together. Much time. Spike and Flitter celebrated their day together at the restaurant, and much of the time they didn't laugh or speak as much at the restaurant. They just looked at each other and just had the most perfect time ever. When Spike was back home at the castle, he even told Twilight about what happened with that Flitter's old boyfriend went back, tried to ask her to take him back. But what she did to him with the door, Twilight couldn't stop laughing about herself, but she noticed that it was maybe not the right thing to do, but at least he wouldn't go away otherwise. But Spike and Flitter's relationship still remained strong, and they never did anything to hurt each other. Even they did had a few fights back and forward over the next few months. Some of them were fights over what to do. Afterward, they decided to move into each other. Spike had asked if Flitter wanted to move into the castle with him, but she wanted him to move in with her. So they talked about this back and forward, they debated what to do. But after this debate, they were more talking with more serious talk, and then end up in an argument, and then a fight, and they decided not to see each other for at least they had to calm down. It took Spike at least 2 days before he calmed down about this. And Flitter, well, she didn't want to see Spike, and also for another few days. She was still upset about Spike got this argument. But then she realized that Spike didn't want to start a fight with her, so she apologized to him and he forgave her. And next 5 months later, she actually moved in to the castle, and she didn't regret at all. And many years later, when Spike was in his mid-20s, he decided to ask Flitter the big question. When he had her at this dinner at the castle, he even asked her then if she wanted to marry him. And she didn't need any time to think about it. She just said, yes, 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 over and over. She stopped even to cry about this. When Twilight came home, they told her about the big news, and she couldn't stop smiling and crying herself. She actually ran up to Spike and hugged him so much over and over and said, Spike, I'm so proud of you. And Spike, well, even he was so happy. And they decided that this wedding to be held within the next few weeks. And even though just only a few days before the wedding, Spike was so nervous he couldn't stop walking around in the castle back and forward. And he was so nervous, he decided he had to now get cold feet. He thought, he said to himself, if I'm doing this right, should I marry her? Should I run away? Should I marry her? Should I run away? And Twilight noticed that, but she tried to talk to him, but it was pointless. She knew one other pony might be able to talk sense to Spike, and that was his best friend, Discord. She called for Discord, and he showed up in the castle, and they had a serious talk. Discord talked and told Spike that he should marry Flitter if he loved her so much, and if he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. And Spike said, yeah, I do love her. I love her more than anything in the entire Equestria. Of course I want to marry her. But Spike, if you were so tired, so cold-feet then, why would you even marry her then? If you were to decide still not sure about this, you had still time to end up this wedding, cancel it, and find some other mare. But Discord already know for sure that he would never do that. because he had been asked to be the best man at the wedding, which he thought is a big honor. Well, Discord, I don't know. Discord, Spike, are you even sure you want to marry her though? You can still have some other mare. No, I love her more than anything, says Spike. Well then, the wedding is on. Still on, right? Yeah, great. And thanks for talk. Then Discord snapped his fingers and was gone. And then on the wedding, Spike was no more than nervous anything ever. But Flitter, she was not nervous at all. She was more happy than excited. But when she heard about that Spike was more nervous and he had more cold feet than he had a few days before, she thought that Spike was gonna cancel the wedding and run away. But when the ceremony started, she saw him still standing at the altar with Discord with Twilight. And the ceremony, it was beautiful. And afterwards, it was a big party, which Pinky had organized, and it was the biggest party they ever seen. And it lasted until midnight, almost. And Spike was more happy to be with Flitter, and they thought to be married. And they both went on to Las Pegasus for their honeymoon for at least 2 weeks. And just barely 3 years after, Spike was told by Flitter that they were going to be parents. And they were going to have twins. A boy and a girl. And when the children was right, Spike was more than excited, but he fainted at the same day when the twins were born. But Flitter, she couldn't stand it. She tried to wake him up, but when he saw that the first baby was born, he fainted again. When he heard the second baby was born, he looked and fainted a third time. But after the baby was born, he grabbed Flitter's hoof and saw the babies next to her, and he smiled and said, "I'm sorry, honey, I couldn't stand it." And she just smiled and said, "It happens to almost everyone, honey." Yeah, I think so too. But Spike was just so happy to be a father. And when the children was old enough, but at least 5 years old, he told them all about his old past adventures with their aunt, Aunt's parrot, Aunt's Rarity, Twilight, Pinky, Fluttershy, and Applejack. But in most of them, the stories he told was when he saved their mother from the 3 dragons, and their children just listened carefully with big eyes and big ears. They couldn't stop listening to his stories, even he told them over and over and over. And their son, he actually started to listen to his stories, and he even started to love to make his own stories. So he wrote it down, and even wrote a small book about his father's past adventures, even when those were already been told. But those books were published and sold many, many copies. And he ended up being married with an stallion mare and had at least 3 children of his own. And their daughter, well, she ended up liking to be a baker. Already as a filly, she loved to bake. And when she was at least 5 to 6 years old, she went part of a baking company or contest, and she won at least 3 times. And afterwards, from that day, she decided to be a baker even more. She started to help her aunt Pinkie Pie at Sugarcane Corner, and when she was old enough, she actually started to help her even more and became like her assistant. And in some part of some point in her life, she became married with a stallion, was a great musician, and also a unicorn. And they had also 3 daughters of their own. And how about Spike and Flitter? They both were so much happy and proud to have at least 2 great children and 6 grandchildren. And it was a blast just to be happy together, and for them it felt like a dream that comes true to find their own true love. And Flitter, well, she didn't have any contact with her old boyfriend since after that day. She never even heard from him again. What happened to him? Well, it turns out his old second girlfriend, which he took after Flitter, took him back, and they ended up married. But they didn't have any contact with Flitter or Spike since after that day. And that's how Spike and Flitter found their true love and got a big family. The end.